Do, 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 do. Hello, everybody. My name is Rodgon. I am an artist. I'm a designer. And today I felt like drawing. So I'm going to be drawing and talking to you guys. So, on our last stream, what did we do in our last stream? Oh, we talked a lot about heads. And we talked about angles. And we talked about perspective, and we talked about all the things that we normally talk about. We talked about helmets, we talked about how to put hats, and I have not put that video on YouTube yet, but that should be there soon. Let's see, what should we draw today? So you guys get a chance every time that I stream, especially the people that are starting out with us. You guys get to choose the themes that we talk about. So that just gives you an incentive as to what we like for joining my streams. So, if anybody has a theme that they want to throw out there, let's start our lesson tonight. Meanwhile, as always, I'm just going to draw heads. Lighting. That's an interesting topic. Sure, we can definitely touch up on lighting. All right, so let's do lighting. I like lighting. Light and shadows, there you go. Two people. Oh, it's the same person, Kyla. Kyla Dawn Draws has chosen our theme for tonight. And it is lighting. So when it comes down to lighting, especially when we're lighting like a person's head or certain body parts, this tends to be an issue with, like, where do you put the shadows? Where do you put the light? Where do you highlight? Where do you put all this stuff, right? So that is a very interesting thing that it brings me back really fun memories. Because now that I'm a professional illustrator for a living, you look back and you think back at when you were questioning these things about yourself, right? When you were thinking like, oh my God, I remember when I didn't know how to draw an eye. I remember when I didn't know how to draw the ear or how to draw blah, 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 blah. So it's very interesting to me, and thinking about lights and shadows, it makes me think about my cousins back in Mexico. So my cousin was, I'd say an amateur comic book artist. He enjoyed comics most of his life, and he was a very good artist. But he wasn't doing it for a living. He was doing it just for fun. And, that was like already a huge inspiration to me whenever I remember seeing him draw. And, like, I remember asking him, like, how do you know where to put shadows? Because to me, it was like magic. I had no idea. I had no idea what I was going to like how you do draw it. And then he just explained it. He was like, you have a little shape, and that shape, if you want it to be over another shape, you got to create its shadow on that thing. And that's how simple it was. Like, okay, so I want these two shadows to be on the ground, so I need to create a shadow for each one of those shapes. And now those shapes are on the ground. Right? So if we add a little cube on top of this, and the lighting is coming so that these two are lit, then the lighting would be coming down from those same directions, and you draw that cube. So that is essentially how he told me how to do it. It took a long time to be able to learn the proper elements to that, but this applies to both lighting and shadows, and we'll talk about that a little bit today. That sounds like a great topic, by the way. All right, we will be using a normal big pen. I got these as promotional items from like a political thing. I grabbed a bunch. They're just normal big pens, nothing crazy. I think I have an empty one here. If you guys are looking for the brand, it's the Round Stick M Pens. I find these pens to be the ones with the least amount of goopy things that happen with you when you're drawing with pen. So therefore I like them more. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about lighting and how you should approach it when it comes down to a human face. So, when we have an object, especially a sphere, and we have light coming from a direction, in this way, let's arch the cube so it looks like it's coming from a distance inside, right? So it's coming from all the way in the back. Here's the sun. And it's hitting this spherical object. Now, the sun produces light that comes all in the same direction. And that matters because then this is going to cast shadows at that exact distance going into your object. Okay, you can literally just follow these lines and this shadow would end up like all the way over here. But I want to keep this so that I can do examples of a face. And then you do the same thing for each side, and then you end up with the actual proper shadow that you're supposed to have for that. Now, this lighting coming from here is also going to give you your highlights. So if it's coming from this direction and this sphere, because it's a sphere, is turned slightly to the side, you're going to get a lot of shadows in the back. Right? Therefore, the light is what's causing all this stuff in here. And we just follow the roundness of the shape in order to find where to stop it. So that's the basic premise of this. Oh, and yeah, you gotta excuse the fan and the AC here. It's incredibly warm in my apartment, and I don't feel like being uncomfortable. So I did get a little lavalier mic. Hopefully that makes it better. But unfortunately, my comfort comes before anything because I'm the teacher. So, all right. So when we're talking about an actual human face, though, it's not just a spherical object. The lighting, even though it's coming from this direction, and let's also make it coming from that direction, from the distance, right? When the light is hitting this direction, and they're all coming in the same direction because it's the sun, right? It's gonna hit the object, and it's not just a sphere, so whenever it comes to like a human face, it tends to be a spherical shape at the top, and then it follows it up by being a little bit more boxy towards the sides of the face. Okay, so what happens is that this area of your face gets lit up, especially coming from the back direction. It gives you more of like a rim lighting type of effect, and then everything else gets a little shaded with the breaks in your flat surfaces creating even more of a shadow. The same situation happens with the eyebrows and the brow lines, right? So this brow line, when you map it out as a shape, it tends to look something like this, right? Then we have the eyes, and then we have our eyes, like eyelids, upper eyelids. So all these have spherical shapes. So if the light is hitting from this direction, the upper part of your eyelid is going to be lit up on this side, but it's going to have a shadow on that side. Same thing happens with this one because it's an eyelid, it's a sphere. The bottom eyelid is the same thing, but it's reversed. So if you follow this same sphere, you can probably just shade this whole side of the face and it'll look okay. Because this is a spherical object, we got to treat it as a spherical object with the light hitting from that direction. Then we go on to the nose. The nose is more like a diamond. Right? If we see this as a diamond with top and bottom sides, then we know that this side is going to be lit up, but this side is going to be a little shaded. and then the underside is going to be shaded as well. This would also cast a shadow, right? This is the underside, so this would cast a shadow onto the, probably onto the lip, a little bit off to the side. The mouth and the mouth area actually extends a little bit forward, creating another sort of little balloon shape here. Okay? It's not flat. It actually extends a little forward and then back and then up a little again with the chin, depending on how big your chin is. So if you treat this like a little balloon, you already have the space for your mouth, so you can just go from one edge to the other and then just draw your mouth. Then on top of those, you have your bottom lip that has depth, right? And your upper lip that also has depth into your little divots, your cheek muscles. And then you can just finish off the like design really if you wanted to. All right, so we have that. Now, as you see, the lips and themselves don't really cast much of a shadow because it's not that big of a curve. But you would still see a little bit more shading on this side rather than this side because it's still a spherical shape. It might be a squished spherical shape with your mouth right here, but you should still determine the lighting and determine that this side would probably see a little bit more shadow than that side. So you would continue doing that. The cheekbone itself creates a little triangle right here, which would also be marked with a little bit of shadows. And then the head itself would cast a shadow onto the neck. The neck is a cylindrical object consisting of 1, 2, and then a dip in between these, 3, followed by your, the space for your Adam's apple or your voice box or whatever you want to call that. So these muscles go this way, and then these inside, this other surface is also shaded. This side of the face, of the neck, would be shaded because it's not getting hit with light, but this side wouldn't. This ear would be completely shaded. There's literally no light hitting it. And then you would determine where your nose bridge would cast the shadow onto the side of your eye. As well as most of these surfaces would have a shadow as well because it's literally not being hit. And then just differentiating the parts that would be darker helps you like round out how you should be attacking these things. Now, in order to be able to get to the point of analyzing shapes like this, if you want to practice and you want to get better at this, even as an advanced artist, create random shapes like cylinders, cubes, diamonds, right? And then just practice both mapping them out in 3D, tracing the front and the back of your shapes. And then after you do that, determine a light source. Let's say, I don't know, this one from the front here. Right? So if that's the light source, determine if it's going to be a sun, like a unilateral light, or if it's going to be a cone light, which would be like a spotlight or something like that. That would determine if your light rays go like that instead. Right? So if we have a sphere and we have a cylindrical light, like a conical light, like a spotlight, the shadow ends up being a lot bigger on the ground. Right? Because you take that light and you take the light source, trace it to the edges, and it creates the exact size of your shadow. Now, if there was like a wall or something here, that same concept would apply, only the shape would have to go around like that. Okay? So that is one thing that you got to keep in mind whenever you have shadows. What kind of light is affecting your shadows? So in this case, let's make it a conical light and just determine where the light source would be and where the shadows would be. It's a cylindrical object, so just a little bit of a gradient tends to do the job here. That simple, right? Maybe this part of the top would be a little shaded, and that's it. You can literally just be like, I practiced that today. Go on to the next shape. Let's determine that the light source is coming from this direction, from the bottom. So therefore, this side would be shaded. This side would be shaded. And probably this side would have a little bit of shading as well. Except for the rim light that would be hitting the bottom of edges right here. Let's move on to the cone, or the pyramid. Let's determine that the light source is coming directly from the top. So if it's coming directly from the top, it would light up all this area first and then gradually decline towards the edges. So, and since it's completely from the top, there would be no shadows unless the object is floating. If the object was floating, then you would have a really big shadow with a conical light. Okay, so that's, one way that you can practice it. And then when you want to get a little bit more experience, practice combining shapes. For example, a box and a sphere. What does that look like? If you make a box and a sphere, you can start practicing with lighting and get used to the shapes that consist of an actual human face. Okay? All right. Levi Hygiene says, Kyla draws, it can be a shadow on one point and another be actual full darkness of the shadow. Yeah, you can have like a bunch of different levels of shadows. There's no like amount of levels of shadowing that you can go into. It really all depends on how many light sources you have in the room. So if you have a really big bright light, that's going to cast one type of shadow. If you have another softer light, it's going to cast a different kind of shadow. If you have reflective surfaces like mirrors or anything like glass, it's going to cast a different kind of shadow. There's no set kinds of shadows for things. It's just lighting. And once you remember that all objects are essentially just basic objects, the lighting just becomes another thing, just like drawing an ear. Let's see. Let's draw another character real fast. This time, let's make him into like a Hulk type of character. Somebody with like a really strong like facial features. Okay. So we have a dude with a very strong chin. Very heavy eyebrows. Very military or police looking dude. There we go. And let's give him like, I don't know, some sort of hair. There you go. Let's make him like a Tom Cruise, like floopy hair on the front, type of a male model type of guy. All right, so we have our tough dude. Okay, so let's give him some lighting. All right, so let's choose a light source. Let's just choose like a normal basic light source from like the top, right? Top front. That seems to be like the basic light source that everyone likes to draw in, like the standard. So we're gonna just grab a normal marker and we're gonna highlight a couple different parts within the shape. Now, this top part, it creates like a box, right? It's like a boxy part. So if we see this as a box, right? If the light is hitting from the top, this underside gets shaded. So if we think about this like a little box, that part all gets shaded. Okay, this is the top part, this is the bottom part. So that, if we see it as a box, that's how you would shade that. Now, the nose, we determined that most noses are more like a diamond, right? Now, this one's all crooked and moved, but it still follows the same pattern as the diamond. So, if the light source is hitting from the top, the bottom part gets shaded. So we're just going to shade the bottom part. That's going to cast a shadow onto my lip. So let's draw the shadow for the nose onto the lip. The lip, especially the bottom lip, has depth. Even if I don't draw it, it's supposed to be an object that has depth. So it's more like that. Okay? So I'm going to indicate this by giving a slight shadow right there. The next element that needs to be shaded is the chin. The chin is not necessarily a box. It's more like a jelly bean, if you think about it, really. So if you're trying to shade a jelly bean with the light coming from the top, this is just a cylinder or like a sphere that's bent. So you can divide that. You can divide it like that, determine where the light source would hit these two panels, and then the rest would be shaded. So, boom. Now we have our shading for our chin. Between the lower lip and the chin, depending on how raised this is and how much it sticks out, that would create a shadow as well, or a divot into the skin. That's the only time that I would actually add a shadow there. The next element that I see that stands out is the cheekbone. The cheekbone right here, it kind of looks the same as this to me, with a top and a bottom. So I'm going to put a shadow on the bottom because the light source is hitting from the top. This would also create a shadow because it's raised. The light source here, the side of the face, would also be a little bit more in shadow. The temple here as well, and we just round out the side of the face to create the same dynamic element. From the top, this ear right here, it might look like little scribbles, but this is actually shapes with depth. So that's one element right there. So I know that that's one element, so the underneath part of that element needs to be shaded. Because all this inner part is normally in shadows whenever everything else is lit up in an ear. And then the bottom of the ear would have a little bit of shading just because of the light source being from the top. You do the same thing as this ear. Literally just shade it the same way. The hair would have shading on its own. So this is creating a swoopy part, which means that the inside part of that swoopy part would be shaded. This would also cast a shadow onto the face depending on how close it is to the face. So let's just draw a shape that draws the shape of the shadow from the hair. Then the next thing would be to shade the neck, and that would start with creating the shadow from the actual head. The head, it tends to come out from where your neck is, right? So you have all this distance right here that you have to account for with the shading. So if the light source is coming from the top, your shadow goes pretty damn down onto your neck depending on how big it is. So in this case, we have our light source here. We want to map it out onto the neck. It would be around right there. Okay. The next step after that is to remember that these muscles right here, they're not just lines. The muscles for the neck have depth. All right? So we have the two major muscles that connect from the back of your ear to the side of your shoulders and to the middle of your clavicle. And those two muscles have a cylindrical roundness to them. So you gotta treat them like little cylinders. And then the inside is more of a cavity between those two muscles. So you add a little bit of a shadow just to indicate that. And that is how you would think about shading just a normal face. Let's see, let's try doing that one more time, but with like a profile or something. So let's draw a profile face. Okay. This time let's go with a slightly different look. Let's try like a little pinup. Let's draw. There you go. And draw some hair. All right, so we have a quick little pinup. All right, so now how would we go about shading this character that we just drew out of nowhere? So we're going to think about the same elements that we did in the other one. First, we're going to determine where the lighting is going to come from. In this case, let's set the lighting to be directly from above. All right, it's like high noon. Charlie, he doesn't... What? Charlie Brown, he just concentrates and doesn't look at the comments too often. No, this is not previously recorded, guys. I'm just trying to teach a lesson, so I'm not... Since I don't have an assistant and I don't have people that help me with this, it's either I pay attention to what I'm drawing or I pay attention to the comments. And sometimes I can do both. Sometimes I can't. You know, it's just... sorry. Like, that's why, you know, joining early in the day, early into the stream, gives you a lot more access to be able to ask the questions that you want. Think about me like a dueling piano bar. At the beginning of the day, everything is honky dory and easy to ask for your requests. Later on in the day, it's a little harder because there's a lot of you guys out there, and I already am concentrating doing what I need to do. So if you see me online, jump in. Ask your question. It's more likely to get answered than not. Okay, so we have this character now that we just drew, and the lighting is going to be coming from the top. So it's a little bit different than having it come from the front. In this case, because you got to take into consideration the same elements, but also what shadows are going to be cast going down the face. So the first elements that are really easy to map out are the hair, because they're literally just cylindrical objects. So I'm just going to map out the bottom of where the hair would be and what you would not see be hit with light. Would probably be about there. The top of the ear would be hit with light, so but depending on how poofy her hair is, I know this inside wouldn't, and inside wouldn't as well. The inside of her floopy part of her hair would cast a shadow directly onto her face, as well as these bangs would cast a shadow on top of her face. In this case scenario, you would probably see all this underside part of the brow muscle, because it is more like a little trapeze going out. You would probably see all that shaded. You would probably see the underside of the nose and a good majority of the side of the face and the bottom of the face in shadows as well. The bottom lip would be completely covered, and you probably would not see much of the chin as well. When it comes down to your cheekbones, yeah, probably all this would be mostly shaded. They would also cause a very large shadow to happen onto your neck, and you would probably only be able to see a little bit of the back because the light source would be breaking through where your ears are. But if it's completely from the top, you probably wouldn't see much of the neck right there. And that's how you would light up that. So it plays a big role in understanding just basic anatomy and very, very basic perspective. Right? When you do the whole mask method, that allows you to break it down very quickly into pretty much all your panels that you're going to need for your face. Right. So when I'm drawing something, I'm normally thinking of my face is more like this. That's how I think of my faces now. I stopped thinking about them in very simple terms, doing that. I don't think like that anymore. That has become very inconsistent for me. To me, I need to be able to see further detail in my basic sketches now, because I'm able to see a little bit farther down the line than just having to map out something with a simple sphere. And that comes with time and experience, and it'll come to you as well. And if you practice and you actually put the time and effort, to be able to learn these things, you realize very quickly that it wasn't all that hard in the beginning. It was just a lot of stubbornness on our parts to not want to change the way that we learn. Levi hygienes. Another easy way for any kid to think of it is like when you make shadow puppets. Yeah. I mean, that's essentially it. You're creating shadow puppets of the objects onto the rest of the canvas, or onto the rest of your drawing. All right, let's draw a little demon dude. Let's see. This is very relaxing. Oh, thank you. I've been having a good week. It's definitely been a very, very nice week so far. I've been doing fantastic in my pool league. Yeah, I play billiards. I play 9 ball and 8 ball, and I'm pretty damn good at it. I get to go to the Nationals Championship in August. So next month, I get to go compete at a national level for APA 9 ball. So that'll be fun. So if anyone is in Vegas around August 12th, let's go draw. I won't be able to drink because I'm competing, but I'm totally down to go get some good food and then draw. That'd be amazing. Have a little drink and draw while I'm there. Yeah. All right. So when you think about things like this, like characters, and you map them out like this, and you set your light source, let's go from this side this time. It's going to be very easy for you to just think about the elements that are there and be able to map them out really, really quickly. Because you're going to start seeing things as basic elements. And those basic elements are going to not shift from one character to the other. They're going to be consistent, be it a pinup, be it a demon, be it an angel, be it a monster. Like, let's make something that's just completely, like, non-human, right? I can do the same element with the mask to create the basic system that's going to generate an interesting face. And then from there, it's just your imagination. So, learning a process like that to be able to just know where things are going to land within a phase is the hard part. Just learning it is relatively easy. And implementing it into your own designs is like really, really fun too. I don't know. I was going for like a Venom or a type of thing, but I think I drew the jaw a little bit too small. It should have been more like. That's how it should have been. Mask. Yeah, I don't draw much fan art, but it'd be kind of fun to go in and do like some of the major Marvel characters. Now that I actually have skills, I should probably try it. Rah. Did I ever work at Disney, Pixar, or as a storyboard artist? No, I never worked for any studios, honestly. I never really like had the compulsion to either. Like I just I have a very interesting way of like thinking, and I don't want to just be a credit in another person's project. Like maybe that's like a very egotistical way of thinking, but I just don't want to be like a cog in somebody else's dream project and then not have time to create my own. Like that is literally not the reason that I joined and I like studied art. It was never to make other people's dreams come true. So I have never really applied for one. That skill with the ballpoint pen, man, very impressive. Well, why, thank you, my sir. Thank you. It's taken a long time to be able to draw with a ballpoint pen and not mess it up every single time. But little by little, you start learning, you start paying attention to different things, and you start memorizing like things quicker too, because you don't want to mess up all the time. And with that comes a lot more dexterity when it comes down to your drawings. Like your brain does not like drawing badly, so it's you end up picking up techniques a little bit quicker. And just overall, it just makes it a little bit easier to draw over time. Like I set out to draw with pen about like 5 years ago, because I could draw with a pencil relatively well. Uh, but it was just I was a very indecisive person. So I decided that in order to fix that, I would draw with pen because you can't erase with pen. And I stuck with it, even though the drawings were horrible at first, absolutely horrendous. I still stuck with it, and then it did improve my line work considerably. Kind of looks like Hermione. They're Gryffindor. Let's draw the t-shirt going over her shoulder. Let's see. Challenging yourself because you can't erase with a pen. That's smart. Well, yeah, I mean, to me, the point it wasn't to like just create cool artwork. It was to create cool artwork and learn from it. I've always been like a little bit far behind when it comes down to talent pool, when it comes down to art compared to a lot of the people that I've worked with. You know, I went to school with some incredibly talented artists. I also had to work as a caricature artist alongside some of the best caricature artists in the world. Uh, so my measure for skill was a little bit daunting, and since I needed to catch up and me like catch up to these people that had been doing it for so long and they're just naturally talented, well, you know, I took a lot of ways to cheat the system like early on in my career, and I sometimes wish I had not done that because that carried me a very long way, but it also hurt me a lot because once I got to the maximum potential that I could with the stylization that I was doing, I came to a very harsh realization that I was not as talented of an artist as I thought I was. I was just very refined in the ways of how to cheat the basics very, very well. And, you know, when I realized that, it was like, ouch. Like, you quickly realize that it's a very humbling experience. So I did what I needed to, and then I just went in and I just forced myself into being a better artist because that's my career, guys. Like, you know, this is if it's your career, why would you not want to get better at it, right? Like, I'm risking my financial future on the fact that I can create art. So why would I not try to like improve my odds so that I am the best that I can be? As opposed to thinking, oh, I'm already the best. I already know everything. I'm just going to ride the cocktails of my skill level until I can't do it anymore. That's not me. And I saw myself getting stagnant, and I corrected it. And that's honestly the only reason that I'm able to even consider myself like one of the people that like made it from that school. Because so many talented artists, but at the end of the day, like most of them didn't end up doing anything with their art because they didn't know how not to be an employee. You know, they teach you very well how to be an employee. They teach you very, very well how not to how to work for someone else. But you know, there's going to be entire huge gaps within time that you don't have an employer. There's going to be huge gaps in your careers in which you need to make do for yourself, or pick up a job that you are going to hate, and that begins a whole other cycle of bullshittery that leads to losing your career, not following through, not being able to get out of your cycle, and then not having enough time to work on your stuff. Therefore then it like ruins everything after that, right? Because then the priority doesn't turn into, it's not being creating art, the priority turns into survival. And survival as an artist is absolutely horrendous because you will feel like you're not doing enough, but like you're doing twice as much as everybody else because you're still trying to like get shit done and still create entire worlds for other people. And that shit's hard. Yeah, that's insanely hard. So, for all of you that are in survival mode right now, um, you know, like, first of all, understand that it's not forever. It doesn't have to be forever. Um, but in order to get out of survival mode a lot, we need to adopt different spending habits and different traits in order to be able to be successfully like out of it. And that would be depending on your needs, depending on the things that you require from life. But, like I've been there multiple times, and it doesn't have to be forever. Like sometimes it's just our egos that are preventing us from making money with something that we could be very happy with. So, analyze what your assets are, what your skill sets are, and see what you can do that will not kill your soul, but at the same time allows you to be creative. And a lot of the times that's a parallel path to what we initially wanted to create as an artist. Like, we don't all always get to work on our dream job, and we don't all get to work for Disney, and we don't all get to do that. But there might be jobs where you are incredibly happy and fulfilled as a designer, as an artist, that aren't going to essentially derail all your years of experience by not using your creative skills. I was very lucky and fortunate to work for a book publisher for a little bit, and honestly, that was the most fulfilling job that I've had. And I had no idea before I applied there that it would be that fulfilling. So it's a big matter of perspective and learning also to see positivity instead of negativity, right? Seeing things as opportunities as opposed to negative setbacks. It comes with just practice, guys. Like, you need to just get out there. You need to try to learn as much as you can so you can become as valuable of an asset as you could possibly think of being. And then once you become a valuable asset, then you have the power to control what projects and what things you do. Right? Like, most people that are experienced with dealing with different kinds of markets and clients and all that random nonsense that you all hate to do. For example, I've dealt with more clients than most advanced people would even have in their lifetime, right? So I know how to communicate with them. I know how to talk to them. And I know how to, navigate the tough scenarios that come along with, them not paying or them not being happy and all that stuff too. That's very hard for a starting out artist because first, you don't know what you're doing. Nobody teaches this shit, right? No one does. Like try to go online and see how much you should charge for a logo. Just go online and try to figure that out. Or even better, hey, how much should I charge for like a 10-second animation? Oh, yeah, try to find that. The information is simply just not there. And it's so like wildly like varied and like just out there that there's no concrete source for any of that information. And the problem is that so many people gatekeep that information that it just, it just ruins the market, because then you get people undercutting everybody without understanding that you can't do an animation for $50. Right? You can't do a cover design for $30. You just can't. Like, it's not a sustainable business model for the artist. Like, you need to be able to at least have the artist eat while you screw him over by having him do work for that little. It's no. The thing is, it's not Fiverr's problem. It's not their issue. Like, Fiverr is doing what it's supposed to. Essentially, it's helping provide third world country artists with some sorts of income. And that's how you should leave it. Like, you have access, if you're an American, you have access to so much that, like, if you're concerned with clients going to Fiverr, you're in the wrong market. You are thinking too little. See, the way that I see art careers go, you normally go one of two ways, right? You either get really, really good at your skill, which puts you at the top of your of the craft, which puts you in some notoriety within your market, and that's essentially what happens with most people. They get really good at what they do if they do it long enough, and then they just get recognized for being so great. There's also people like myself that honestly, I just want to make sure, I don't care about being the best artist in the world, but I want to be able to share the ability to create with people so that they can grow up to be the next best artist in the world, right? Like, my fame and my ego mean absolutely nothing. Like, I think I have achieved what I needed to in my life already. And, all this is just extra bonus karma. Like, and I just want to leave the world a little, this turned out really weird. I want to leave this world a little bit happier because I was in it. And that comes along with being a good person. As you grow older and you have like a really interesting young adulthood like I did, you end up realizing that the value of someone being good and a kind person increases quadrillion fold as you get older, because there's such little amount of that in the like in the world. Like there's literally like everybody claims to be a good person, but that's not the case. There's a lot of people out there that are just bad people, right? And it's really hard to stay positive throughout your life. Can you draw ahead using the Loomis method? I just love the way that you can draw so fast. Well, the Loomis method, if I'm not mistaken, is starting with a sphere and then using another tilted circle, you split the sphere into a side that has two flat surfaces on the sides. Then you trace a line in the middle and you bring it down. You mark the middle of those circles and the sides to determine where your jaw should come out to your chin. And then that's also the eye line, I believe. It's something similar to that. I'm not incredibly familiar with it. I haven't really gone back and studied it in a long time, but I think that's the way that it was supposed to be. Looks like an alien. And then you just mark out the anatomy. Yeah, it's something like that. See, I don't play with a lot of spheres. I go with more boxy shapes. Like, I like angles, right? So my faces will more likely resemble this shape than they will resemble a sphere. Mostly because I like my flat edges and sides. It just provides me the angles that I need. So I like doing things like this more than I like doing things like this. And more like this way, I just feel like I can carve out my drawings. I can just start moving things around. Even though I'm drawing with pen, none of the lines that you see initially are probably going to be visible or even matter in the last drawing. So it still allows me to a good ability to sketch. All right, let's see. Have our nose bridge. Our nose bridge has depth. Depth, people. Remember, we're not just drawing lines, we're drawing shapes that create volume, right? So in this case, I'm creating a little sphere, another sphere, and then this big honky tube box that leads to the middle point right here in between the eyes. That is normally where the eye line breaks from the nose to the eyebrows down, nose. Okay, and that's normally at the middle of the eyes. So that's where that break is. That's what we're drawing. Volume. This also helps you start mapping out your flat surfaces on your face. Right? Okay, then we move on to the mouth. And like we talked about a little bit earlier, you can map out the mouth by going from your chin to the side of your mouth, of your side of your nose, and then just making a nice oval shape. Now this can be brought out if you want to make like a big smile. You can just make this line really big if you wanted to, but this is just to determine the edge of your mouth, so you can understand which both sides have it. And then you curve it around to match. Okay, and then from the bottom goes down, forward, and then back down. And the reason that happens is because the mouth is kind of like a rubber band, right? Yay! If you like break up the mouth very, very simply, it's kind of like a rubber band. So when you wrap a rubber band around the shape, what happens is this overlap right here. Boom. And that's what you do here. So you can get that depth that you need to make it look cool. Okay, so we have our eye that's slightly closed. Let's make it even more of a facial expression. Then we have our mouth, our lip, and our chin. Then we have our cheekbone that comes out, creates this divot. Our jawline on the bottom. It bends to the front into our chin. And keeping in mind, this little tiny divot is going to be important too, because when you're going to try to draw the neck, you got to determine where this divot is and where the other side is. So a very interesting, funny way to do it is just to trace like a diadem across your face, and then you have your other side of your jaw, and then just connect that to your chin. So now we have the other side of the jaw, the divot, which is going to be connected by an imaginary line so that we can come up with the neck area underneath. So if you're ever wondering how to determine where that little trachea is and how far away from your face your throat should be, it normally gets separated where your chin connects at the little divot. You make a little triangle, and that's where your voice wax would be, or your trachea. And then you just connect all the lines like I've taught you before. Right? So when you're drawing a character, if you draw the head looking up, like you guys are asking, I would follow my chin into the other side of the jaw, map out my ears, and then connect these 2 points. That is going to allow you to draw a little shape that goes from one side to the other, and it's going to make it look like an arrow. But that's going to be for your muscle. Right? So when you're looking up, let's do it again. You're going to draw your head looking up. You're going to draw your chin, and you're going to draw both sides of the jaw. Determine where your ear is going to go. Then at the divot of both of the jaws, connect it. That creates a triangle for the underside of your chin. Here, you're going to divide this by creating an arc that's going to be as wide as you want your throat to be. If you want the throat to be really, really big, then you would make this bigger. If you want this smaller, you can make this smaller. And then from there, using the method that I've taught you guys about the diamond method, the baseball diamond method for the neck is as easy as doing a baseball diamond. The front, home base is going to be your clavicle. That's going to connect your muscles from your ears. The sides, or first base and third base, are going to be where your muscle connects to your shoulders. And home base is where your back muscle connects to that. And then you take this little area that you drew, and then you drape it down like a little cone to create the trachea, or Adam's apple, or whatever you want to call it. And that is how you draw the neck. Very easily, looking up. The more that you understand how anatomy works, let's try to make one really weird, super looking up. All right, so we're looking super high up. So the line from here to here is this line right here, right? So this line goes back down, but then you wouldn't see this line going up. It would just be in a straight path up. You're looking into the distance, so that's why you don't see that there. And then you see your ear. Now, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to connect this side to this side. We're going to create an arc, depending on how big we want our throat to stick out. And then we create our baseball diamond, which, if you're looking up, would be a little bit upside down, I think. Let's try that. Let's make an upside down baseball mark. We're going to connect our muscles where we need to connect them. And then we just bring this little voice box down to create the rest of our muscles. So that worked actually quite well. That worked out quite well. I can't complain. So that's how I've been doing it. I haven't seen anybody else do it like that. So I do apologize if somebody else has that method. But if not, I am going to call it the rod gun method. I think that... Did I study anatomy? Yeah. I didn't go to school for it. I picked up a lot of books, and then I just started trying to practice doing it. And little by little, as things actually clicked, it was a lot easier to draw different things. But, at first it was hard. At first things weren't easy, and it didn't come easy. But the trick is to just keep at it. Yeah, the rod gun method. That sounds like a... Hey, if Loomis can have one, and I don't know other people that have one, why can't I? Right? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Any book recommendations? Yes, there's Michael Hampton has a book, and I highly recommend his book if you want to learn anatomy. The beauty of it is that it's super color coded, so it helped me a lot, because I could be oh, there's the orange part. Oh, but I'm missing the yellow part. I know there's a yellow part that's supposed to be there, but that was kind of how I saw it, and it helped me out a lot. And even after, when I go back and look at it now, it still teaches me a lot of things that I wasn't able to understand back then. So I highly suggest that one. Oh, I don't have a book on anatomy yet. I am. I'm hopefully like I haven't heard back from the publisher, so I'm not gonna be like I'm 100% like sold on the idea of them picking up my book. But I am going to release a how to draw book, hopefully by the end of the year. So if yeah, I want to release a how to draw everything book, and it's going to be just a guide on how to unleash your creativity, like how to make yourself be able to draw absolutely anything. See, the issue that I'm having with the publisher is that they don't want me to name it that. They want me to change the name to something else because they have something that's already similar. And to that, I say, "Fooey, man. Nah, I've been wanting to name that book that since I ever wanted to create one. That is literally like a thing that is either happening or the book's not getting done. So it's either gonna be done my way because it's my dream. It's literally my dream to create a how to draw book and like make myself more into a legitimate teacher. Like I don't know how to explain how badly I want to be a teacher, but how badly I don't want to go waste another 3 years getting a master's degree so I can teach. Because in California, you can't teach unless you have a master's degree. So, since I don't have a master's degree, and I'm pretty sure that my AI tie-like degree, for some reason, since the school went bankrupt, I don't know if that's even legitimate anymore. But, that's for another time and another rant. But, I've always wanted to be a teacher. The thing is, publishers are weird. Like they think that they have all the power because they promise you like the world, right? And since I've dealt with clients and like agencies my entire life, like pretty much my entire adult life, I've had to deal with that shit. So I don't fall for these things, right? Like I know when people are speaking out of their ass, and I know when people are not, and it's just disheartening because I thought it was going to be a really really cool thing, but